This happened to me in 2009. My name is Rachel, and I was 22 years old, in my junior year at a state college in Ohio. I had just moved out of the dorms and away from a roommate who never paid her share of anything. Money was tight. I worked at a diner 3 nights a week and took a full course load during the day, and when I found this apartment for $400 a month, half a mile from campus, it felt like a small miracle. It was the bottom floor of an old 2-story house that had been split into 2 separate units a long time ago. My side had a bedroom, a small kitchen, and a bathroom. The other side, connected by a locked door in my hallway, was labeled storage. My landlord, an older man named Mr. Whitaker, told me that side of the house was mostly old storage. Furniture from previous tenants, boxes, things that had apparently been sitting there for years. He said he rarely had any reason to go inside. During the walkthrough, he told me I would never need to worry about that door because it stayed locked from his side. I signed the lease in August. By September, I had my desk set up under the window, my Dell laptop plugged into the wired connection that came through a cable along the baseboard, and a stack of CDs next to a little boombox on my dresser. It was not much, but it was mine. After 2 years of dorm life and living with another person, having a door I could lock behind me felt like the safest thing in the world. The first strange thing happened in October. I came home from a night shift at the diner, tired and smelling like fryer oil, and noticed a faint, cloudy patch along the bottom corner of the mirror. It looked almost like moisture trapped behind the glass. I wiped the front with my sleeve. The mark did not move. It seemed to be on the other side. I stared at it for a few seconds, and then told myself it was probably condensation inside an old wall. Old houses get drafts. I told myself that more than once that month. Then in early November, I started losing small things, not big things. A hair tie I always left on the dresser, a pen. Once, a photograph of me and my mom that had been tucked into the frame of the mirror fell to the floor. When I picked it up, the tape on the back was peeled halfway off, like someone had lifted it to look underneath. I mentioned it to my friend Denise on the phone one night. We used to talk for an hour at a time back then, since neither of us had unlimited texting yet, and it was cheaper to just call. Denise said, "Maybe the house is settling. Old houses do that. Things shift." I replied, "Maybe." But I did not believe it. Not really. By the middle of November, I started noticing the cold. Not drafts under the door. It was a very specific coldness that seemed to come from the mirror itself. I would sit at my desk doing homework, and if I leaned my hand against the wall near the frame, it felt much colder than the rest of the room. I asked Mr. Whitaker about it when he came by to fix a dripping faucet. Whitaker said, "Old plaster. That side of the house does not get much sun." He did not quite look at me when he said it. He was not unkind. He was just an older man who moved slowly and rarely looked directly at you when he spoke. Thanksgiving came and went. I stayed on campus that year because I could not afford the bus ticket home, and my parents understood. I spent the break studying for finals and picking up extra shifts. It was during that quiet week, with almost nobody else around my end of the street, that I started to feel something I could not explain. A sense of being observed, not all the time, just sometimes. Usually at night, usually when I was getting ready for bed. I would catch myself glancing at the mirror the way you glance at a person standing behind you. One night I woke around 2 in the morning because I heard a sound like a chair scraping against a wooden floor. It came from the direction of the storage side. I lay very still and listened. There was nothing after that, just the normal creaks of an old house cooling down. I told myself I had dreamed it. The following week, I noticed something that finally made the fear feel less like nerves and more like fact. I kept my desk lamp at a certain angle, always the same. If I turned it too far, the light reflected off my laptop screen. I came home from a study session at the library around 9 at night and found the lamp turned slightly to one side. Not a lot, maybe 15 degrees. But enough that I noticed immediately because I am the kind of person who keeps things the same out of habit. I called Denise again. Denise asked, "Rachel, are you sure someone did not just bump it?" I told her, "I live alone. Nobody has a key but me and the landlord." Denise replied, "Then maybe it was him. Checking something," I said. "He would have told me if he needed to come in." She was quiet for a second. Then Denise asked, "Do you want me to come stay with you this weekend?" She did. And for those 2 nights, nothing happened at all. No cold spot, no cloudy patch behind the glass, no strange sounds. I remember feeling almost embarrassed, like I had imagined the whole thing. Denise left on Sunday afternoon. That same night, the cloudy patch appeared again behind the bottom corner of the mirror, low near the frame. I wiped the glass. It stayed exactly where it was. That was when I stopped assuming it was nothing. I did something I probably should have done much earlier. I went outside with a flashlight and looked at the house from the side yard. There was a window that belonged to the storage side. The blinds were always down, but that night, one side of the blind was bent slightly, just enough to leave a gap the width of 2 fingers. I stood there in the cold in my socks because I had rushed outside without thinking. I watched that gap for almost a minute. Nothing moved, but I could not shake the feeling that someone had been near that window very recently. The next morning, I called the local station, not the emergency line. I simply asked if someone could come take a look. A young officer named Patterson came out that afternoon. He was polite and thorough, but honest about what he could and could not do. After checking my door and windows, Patterson told me, "There is no sign that anyone came through these doors or windows, and I cannot open the storage side without the landlord being here or something more definite to go on." I asked, "So there is nothing you can check?" Patterson replied, "I understand why this worries you, but right now we have a bent blind, things that may have moved, and sounds from another part of the house. If something more definite happens, call us." He gave me his card. I appreciated that he did not dismiss me, but I left that conversation feeling more alone than before. I started sleeping with a chair wedged under my doorknob. It did not make complete sense because the storage area had its own locked entrance from my hallway, but the chair made me feel steadier. 2 days later, I finally caught Mr. Whitaker at a moment when I could ask him directly without dancing around it. I asked, "Has anyone else ever had a key to the storage room? A previous tenant, a repairman, anyone?" Whitaker rubbed the back of his neck. He answered, "There was a young woman who lived in your unit before you, left in the spring. Good tenant. I do not remember giving anyone else access." I asked, "Do you remember her name?" He hesitated slightly. Then Whitaker said, "Melissa." "Why do you ask?" I did not have a good answer, so I let it go. But I wrote her name on a piece of paper and kept it in my desk drawer, the way you keep a thread you are not ready to pull yet. The final week of the semester, I was home alone finishing a paper when I heard it clearly. A soft, deliberate creak from behind the wall. Then another sound, careful, shifting weight, like someone adjusting their position while trying not to make noise. I did not call out, I did not move. I sat frozen at my desk with my pen still in my hand. For the first time, I let myself really look at the mirror instead of past it. There was a thin gap along the bottom edge of the frame that I had never noticed before. The wood did not sit completely flush against the wall. I leaned closer. A faint line of cold air came through it. That explained the cold spot, but it did not explain the sound I had just heard on the other side. I left the apartment that night and stayed at Denise's. In the morning, I called Mr. Whitaker. I told him I needed to speak with him in person at the apartment that afternoon. He came over looking tired, older than I remembered him looking before. I asked him as calmly as I could to open the storage door and let me see inside, just once, just so I could stop wondering. He did not argue. That surprised me more than anything else that had happened. Whitaker simply took a ring of keys from his coat pocket, walked to the hallway door, and unlocked it. The storage room was small. Old furniture covered in sheets, boxes stacked against one wall. Exactly the kind of forgotten storage room Whitaker had described months earlier. But against the wall that backed onto my bedroom was a wooden stool. It was positioned directly behind my mirror. I walked closer. From my bedroom, the glass looked like an ordinary mirror. From the dark storage room, it was a window. I could see directly into my bedroom. My bed, my desk, my dresser, everything. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Mr. Whitaker's face had gone pale. He kept shaking his head slowly. Finally, Whitaker said, "I did not put that there. That glass was already like that when I bought the house. I swear to you I never touched it." I wanted to believe him. Part of me still does. Then I looked at the stool. Sitting on it was a small spiral notebook. I picked it up. Inside were pages of neat, cramped handwriting, dates going back almost 2 years, times, short notes about routines, when lights came on, when someone left, when someone came home. Then I saw a woman's name. I recognized it immediately from the piece of paper folded inside my desk drawer. Melissa. I looked at Mr. Whitaker. I asked, "Did you know this was here?" Whitaker shook his head. "No." I held up the notebook. I asked again, "You have never seen this?" Whitaker answered, "Never." I could not tell whether I believed him. The local station sent officers back to the house. They photographed the storage room and took the notebook with them. They also contacted Melissa. I was never told exactly what she said. What I was told was that nothing in the notebook clearly identified who had written it. There was no signature, no name, nothing that clearly tied the handwriting to one person. Mr. Whitaker had the viewing glass permanently covered that same day. As far as I know, nobody was ever identified. I moved out before Christmas. For the first few months, I thought about that apartment almost every day. Then life moved on. I finished college. I kept working. I moved to another place. Eventually, weeks would go by without me thinking about the mirror at all. Years passed. Most of what happened there started to feel far away, like something that had happened to a different version of me. But even now, whenever I stay somewhere unfamiliar, I still notice the mirrors. I look at the frame. I look at the wall around it, and sometimes, without even realizing I am doing it, I turn off the lights and look again.